Well, hey everybody, it's Kev Bo Jones here with another episode of the Wonderful World of Baseball Cards. Um, Today I wanted to do another segment of my childhood baseball cards. These were cards that I picked up from the ages of about 12 through about 16 when I was heavily collecting vintage cards. And this episode is going to feature the years 1960 through 1963. The next part will feature 1965 through 1966, and then finally 1967 through 1969, and so on down the line. This is a fun little series. So I thank everybody for watching, and let's get started. So this is your classic example of why you should never, if you don't look at your cards, you should never send them to PSA. I got this card when I was about 15. I was working on a Yaz PC, and I submitted this to PSA this summer, and it came back a 3. It does have these kind of smudges all over it. And I didn't put it under a trillion times microscope to look at the card or go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Based on what I'd been looking at on the internet, I thought this card would maybe be a 4 or a 5. It came back a 3. I love this card, but it's definitely, I feel like, has been kind of ruined in this slab. I may free it from here. But I love this Yaz card. This is one of my tent poles in my collection. It always has been. And it's just a fantastic card. I'll let you see the back here too. It looks pretty good. I mean, it's a little off-centered and whatnot, and maybe the color's not that great, but it's still a great looking card. And one of the top 5 in my collection, and if I could only keep 5 cards, it would definitely be one that I would hang on to. So there's this 1960 Yaz. I've decided that I'm going to let some other sucker do the PSA submissions, and then I'll buy their cards. Because it's just too much of a lottery, too much risk, too little reward. So there's that Yaz though, and I love it. And you'll see more Yaz cards kind of through this video. Here's a 1960 Lee May. Always loved the Braves cards, loved the logo. Got this card around the same time that I got a lot of my late 50s ones. This was in that childhood binder for the longest time. 1960 Lee May. There's a 1960 Dick Ellsworth rookie. Pretty nice looking card. I don't know why I grabbed this one. I think because he was a Cub, and I used to love the Cubs back when Harry Carey was the announcer. So I got that one. Here's a World Series insert card. Carl Furillo. I think I was turned on to these World Series cards for a brief minute because the neighbor who gave me a bunch of vintage cards and kind of opened my eyes to them had a bunch of these that were in that binder that I showed you in the very first video I ever did. So I grabbed a few of these as I was going through shows. And I got these, the next few you're going to see all the same day. And these are pretty nice, though, these 1959 World Series ones. So there's Carl Furillo. Here's Gil Hodges from the same series. 1959 series, Dodgers beat the White Sox. Now this next one I think is an interesting little story. So this card shows Louis Aparicio, but I think it's actually Maury Wills Topps rookie. Maury Wills was not under contract with Topps until I think 1967. And although this is a Louis Aparicio card, I think it's really Maury Wills who's being featured. Topps was kind of sly, sneaking Maury Wills in on this one. This is a great card. I mean, Maury Wills was one of the best players of the 60s, and I just love it, the little story. I got that story from that great book of baseball cards that I did a video on earlier. So I knew about this Maury Wills here, and so when I was a kid and I saw it, I was like, I'm going to get that. Maury Wills card before Topps had Maury Wills. So that's kind of the story behind this one. Also, always loved the combo cards. There's Jim O'Toole and Veda Pinson. I like that one a lot. Whenever I could find a cheap one of these, I'd always grab them. Here's a 1961 Yaz. This is a super nice card. This one has a great story behind it. So I traded the 1989 Upper Deck Dale Murphy Reverse Negative Error for this card, the 1963 Yaz you're going to see in this video, and the 1965 Yaz you'll see in the next installment of this series. This is a great looking card. I would never submit it, but another one like this, you know, really my Yaz PC was rolling when I was about 14 or 15. I was just rocking on the Yaz. So here's another one. The only one I'm missing is 1962. And I'm going to look for that one maybe in like a PSA 6. I just could never afford that card as a kid. And I never really saw one either. So there's that. Good old Ron Santo. Great card. Always liked him. Saw his name in that box a lot of the cards the neighbor gave me. And I love the Wrigley Field in the background. 1961 Ron Santo rookie. Hank Bauer. I remember him mostly from that Topps book. He was, I think, a pretty good player, played for a long time. This might be his last card. It was a name I recognized as a kid, so I picked up this Hank Bauer. Kind of a random card, but I like that one. Another guy like Monty Irvin, who I feel like always had a great baseball card, was Vic Power. And I leapt at this card when I was a kid. Just has a great name. He wasn't really that great a player, but I love this card. I love the Indians patch on his sleeve. I think that's Yankee Stadium in the backdrop. Just a classic, really good looking baseball card. And one of the favorites actually in my collection. I'm not really a big fan of the 61 set overall, but I love this Vic Power. And this kind of shows I would get cards that looked aesthetically pleasing to me as well when I would look for cards. So there's a Vic Power. Here's another one that's aesthetically pleasing, a 1961 Johnny Callison. Great pose, great card. Not so great of a player, but it was something I could afford when I was a kid collecting vintage, and it was just a name I strangely somehow kind of recognized. It's kind of a goofy one, Gene Baker. Again, I like the pose, and just a good-looking card. My guess is this is like spring training. Gene Baker for the Pirates. Now this one is goofy, and I bought this just because it's goofy. Ray Ripplemeyer. Great name, never heard of him. Just a totally, I don't know what's going on with that hat or that jersey. I don't know if he ever had another Topps card, but there's a pretty goofy Ray Ripplemeyer. I think I bought this as like I was with my buddy at a show and I was probably like 15 or something. I was like, what a dork. So I grabbed that card just because it's so weird. One of my, of course, favorite team cards. Always loved those. Braves. Love the logo. Tons of Hall of Famers on there. I like these too. This is a cool card. I like this Walter Johnson. 3 shutouts in 4 days. You'd never see that now. And the story, I always loved Walter Johnson. Book I read as a kid. I can't remember the name of it, but they said that he said that when the first time he ever faced Walter Johnson, all he heard was whoosh as the ball went by. I think Walter Johnson probably had like a 90 plus mile an hour fastball. And I think there's a reason he was called the Big Train. Just a great, legendary player. I think he had 400 wins, all-time winningest left-hander. I think he was a left-hander. And although it looks like he's throwing right in this picture. But just an amazing hurler. And I love that card. I may work on this little subset as the years roll on in my collecting. I really like this little subset. Here's a 1962 Harmon Killebrew. Whenever I'd see a Killebrew that was cheap, it's like see one, play one. So I would just grab them. This card it's seen better days. But my grandpa was a big Twins fan and always told me how great Killebrew was. So I always had a soft spot for Killebrew because of my grandpa. So I'd grab his cards if I saw them. Here's a 62 Joe Adcock again. When I'd see a Brave, I'd get him. And I had that 52 Bowman of his, so I was like, oh, I'll get Joe Adcock. He hit a lot of homers. Alex Grammas, this could almost pass as a Stan Musial card if you just kind of looked at it really quick. Alex Grammas, 1962 Topps. Here's a great one. Leader card. 3 Hall of Famers, big sluggers. Cepeda, Mays, and Robinson. Love the floating heads. And I like the leader cards too. And you'll see another leader card here next with some floating heads and some very large ears. But you can never go wrong when you see 3 Hall of Famers. I wasn't thinking of that when I saw that when I bought this. I just saw Willie Mays and I was like, I'm going to get it. Floating heads, big ears. Boom, Don Mossy. Look at those ears. We love you, Don. Dick Donovan. Look at those ears. Holy moly, huh? I bought this card purely for the ears. Because I just thought it was really funny. Of course, here I am again. Another team card with the Braves. Me and my team cards. Here are some really nice 1962 Post. I got all these at the same time. Beautiful 62 Post Clemente. Cut well. Sharp looking card. Love this one. And I got a little run of these here. Eddie Matthews. 62 Post, cut pretty well, just a great card. I got these all at the same show when I was about 15. I think I paid like $2 a piece for them. These cards are just difficult to find. A lot of times they're trimmed really poorly. Of course, that can affect their condition. But, I mean, it's just chock full of Hall of Famers. Love them. Here's Joe Adcock. Again, you can see I kind of had a Joe Adcock thing. 62 Post. That one's trimmed a little funkier, but nice nonetheless. Killebrew. 62 Post. I had to do a double take when I did this video to make sure that this was 62 because they look different. 62 Killebrew. I had a Koufax of this 62 Post, but I sold it actually recently, just within the last couple of years. As I was deciding I was completely done with cards and was gonna whittle it down to 5 cards, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, started up again. So, and then here's the 62 Post Yaz, of course, part of my PC, if you want to call it that, for Yaz. Now the final year here, great card, another combo. I love those combos. Power Plus, Banks and Aaron. I didn't have many Hank Aaron cards as a kid, and I still don't now. Because I couldn't afford Hank Aaron. I couldn't afford Mickey Mantle. It was tough. When you're a kid, you don't have a lot of money. But I saw this one when I was a kid, and I snagged this up. I just thought this was a super cool card, and I just love this one. Here's part 2 of the Dale Murphy trade. 63 Yaz. Now this one is a little past its prime. I'm going to probably get an upgrade of this someday. But the 61, the 63, and the 65 were all part of that Dale Murphy 1989 Upper Deck reverse negative trade. I did that when I was 14, and like I said, I thought I was hot stuff. So there's that one. Kenny Hubbs. Now this one's a sad story. 1962 NL Rookie of the Year, second baseman for the Cubs. He died in a plane crash at the end of the 1963 season. Was a pretty solid player. And then in 1964, they did that in memoriam card for him, which I think is the only time maybe they ever did that, at least in the vintage era. But I got this as a kid, knowing that story about Kenny Hubbs, and I just love this card. And I think it's the three that were issued for him, 62, 63, and 64. I think this is his nicest card. A forgotten player, a long since forgotten player, but a great card nonetheless. More ears. Don Mossy, ears. Tiger Twirlers combo card with Jim Bunning on there too. But look at those ears. Don, we love you. More team cards. 1963 Chicago Cubs team card. Now this one, if you saw my previous video, you saw 1957 Robin Roberts. This card was also given to me for Christmas one year by my cousin Brett at the same time as that Robin Roberts and a few others that you'll see as the series progresses. But this is a 1963 Fleer Roberto Clemente. I think it's a great looking card. They actually call him Roberto, not Bob. And I think this is probably, I think this 63 Fleer set is one of the most undervalued sets of the 1960s. Really the only major issue competitor to Topps throughout the whole decade, with the exception of maybe the Post cards. But like this was the real deal. I think these were packed with caramel, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a card that's near and dear to me. This will always be in my PC. And I just love this 1963 Fleer Roberto Clemente. Again, I feel like a highly underrated, undervalued card. And just an amazingly good picture, too. And they call him Roberto. Another Fleer, Milt Pappas. Another one of the guys I liked as a kid. And then Johnny Callison. And then the final card here was another PSA submission that I did this summer at the same time as the Yaz. Huge mistake. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought this card was going to come back a 6. I didn't put it under the billion trillion times microscope. It came back a 4. But I picked this card up. This is one of the last cards I ever purchased with my collecting days. I paid about $35 for this as a kid when I was 16. It was just such a beautiful looking card. I almost parted with it in the mid-2000s. I had it on consignment at a baseball card shop and pulled it because, I don't know, there's just something. I love the Los Angeles emblazoned across the jersey. What a great pose. This is a really nice looking card. I was shocked by the grade. After kind of looking at it, I was wondering if there was maybe like a bit of a diamond cut on it, or I don't know. I mean, the back is like pretty solid on it. The red border looks like decent enough compared to some other 4s that I've looked at, and higher grades on the eBay after I got this one back. Was really disappointed again. No more PSA for me as far as my submissions, but and as you can tell in these cards you're looking at, none of them would be worth submitting to PSA anyway. But just I love this card, and great stuff. So Folks, thanks so much for watching. I want to give shout outs again to my back pages, or those back pages, and Baseball Collector for their support, for the engagement. You guys are all great. There's a great community out here. I appreciate you all watching. Even if you're just scrolling through the videos, leave a comment. I get back to you. Part 2 of this series will be coming probably next weekend, where I'll do 64 through 66 of my childhood PC. And take care, everybody. Keep collecting what you love. This is Kev Bo Jones signing out.